So what do you use this mixer for? Just like dropping in?
We're going live. Welcome to Inside the Upside Down. I'm Mike Ricksecker, author and ghost story. And with me is Lee Ehrlich, the paranormal explorer and author. We just got done with a great Edge of the Rabbit Hole where we were talking about our Mineral Springs Paracon, Haunted Road Media Paracon, coming up here at the end of the week. But for this one, this episode, we're going to be talking about underwater paranormal phenomena. It's expertise that Lee has. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. It's actually a topic you're going to be talking about during the Paracon here.
Yeah, for a good hour, so it'll be interesting as can be.
Yep. So welcome to the after show. This is Inside the Upside Down. Go ahead, Lee.
Hey, everybody. Well, tonight there's just 1,000,001 questions about underwater paranormal, and since I head the world's only team that does this, I've got some answers for you. Where shall we start tonight?
Well, I mean, I guess we'll start. You're a world-class diver, so you've been doing that for. I mean, just even from your salvage work and things like that. I mean, that's absolutely fascinating. But I guess we could just start, with how you got into actually, checking out paranormal activity down under the water. I mean, was it because of the fact that you were going down to some of these old wrecks and just seeing stuff?
Yeah, it's because we were in a wreck when I was young. It was maybe, let me think back, in the early 80s perhaps. And I'd had experiences in and around the ocean living in Southern California, but it wasn't until we went down into a shipwreck and had an experience with this glowing ball of light that was floating down one of the passageways that I actually started questioning all of this, wondering, what did I see? It was intelligent. How can this possibly be? This isn't just a bubble.
Right.
It had light coming from it, but from where? All these different questions. So I started realizing that there were places on Earth to go to experience phenomena that people never went to, and that there could be just all these things going on all the time normally that nobody would ever see because nobody's down there. So what we started to do is we started to go into these dark ships in the dark. Not just wreck penetration in general, but we'd go in the middle of the night, 1 a.m., 2 in the morning, those kind of things, where, 100 and some odd feet down into a shipwreck, several floors in, seeing what manifests itself in places where people never go.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah, it's kind of like really uncharted territory down there.
Yeah, it's completely uncharted. I mean, you've got, cryptids galore. Of course, they're actual species, but we've never identified them because nobody's down there looking at them when they're swimming around.
Right.
Everything from little shrimps and lobsters and different species nobody's ever seen to all sorts of other, any things that look like spiders and these little glowing embers that seem to be alive and all these things that we find. It's amazing. So every time you go down, you're going to find something that nobody's ever seen.
Right.
And that's the great part, because when we go in the dark, we shut our lights off. We sit in the ship in the dark with our lights off.
You're underwater in the dark, no lights.
In the dark, no lights. Well, we bring lights to get to where we are.
Right.
But when we get it, we'll go 2 or 3 floors into a shipwreck, and then we turn off our lights. And we just sit there in the pitch blackness just looking to see what shows up. That's how you have to do it. You can't have a light cannon lighting things up. And, forget about that. Most divers do that. They have the light cannon with the most lumens they can possibly afford, and they turn it into a daylight dive.
Question here from Tom McNicholas. Well, actually, not a question. It's a statement, but I'm going to turn it into a question. So I know Tom does diving. So he says he uses a UV light underwater. Does that make any difference for you under the water?
Yeah. We've used them. I think, I don't know. Sometimes they're a little bit easier on the eyes. Mm-hmm. Definitely. They're not quite so shrill. I'm a big fan of UV. I'm a giant fan of UV versus IR, because UV is a softer light. UV is more natural, perhaps. Infrared is just it's like you're baking things with a light, and as a result, UV works better on land. UV, with paranormal phenomena, with cataloging paranormal phenomena, it works better underwater. Yeah, it does. I like using UV just when I'm diving because it's softer on my eyes.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a lot so. You're not you're not burning your eyes out with this big bright, You know.
Well, what about, okay, some people are starting to theorize these days, or it's been postulated, and I bought a UV flashlight just to kind of test it, because it wasn't all that expensive, that the regular flashlights scare off a lot of these entities and paranormal activity and what have you.
Oh, yeah.
And so using the UV light is better.
It doesn't, it seems to be, of course, these wavelengths, they only have a certain amount of penetrative power, because for instance, some of these waves are slower, and some of these waves are travel faster. So some hit with more punch, and some are more disruptive, whereas others are softer. And these are things that are interpreted by the phenomena. Nobody likes to have a loud shrill, like a whistle blown in their ear, and nor does someone like to have a really bright light shine in their eyes. These are offensive things. So I think that one thing I've noticed, for example, and speaking of terrestrial ghost hunting, is around the time when everyone started using IR cameras, I don't believe anyone anywhere has ever caught a ghost on one.
Yeah, and that's another thing that I've heard in recent years, is that people are starting to move away from using the IR. I mean, they've put all this money in these big security systems and wiring the cameras all over the place, and they're not really getting much. They put a ton of work into it. All that review time,
nothing.
For what?
Well, what they're getting is
a few little things, but not like. Like the big, there's an apparition, there's a shadow person. For the amount of hours that you have to review all that, you're getting very, very little. You're
getting very little. It's almost as if, yes, for example, this is how we'll use IR. Rather than looking for the ghost, I'll look for what the ghost is doing. For example, I'll take cotton balls and little pieces of tape, and I'll put them on electrical switches throughout the home. And then when I basically irradiate the quarter with infrared, what I'm doing is I'm looking at these little glowing white balls of cotton ball on the switches. And that way, when the light comes on, if the little ball moves on the switch plate, then something flipped the switch.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for the cause of the effect. I'm not looking for the thing. I'm not looking for the ghost. I'm looking for what it's doing, a moving object, those kind of things. But nobody... I don't think anybody has got a ghost sitting there waving, "Hey, how are you?"
Right.
On IR. And
what about full spectrum versus IR? Tom's throwing that one out in the chat too.
I don't know. I mean, we since we know little or anything about paranormal phenomena, the sky's the limit as far as what could be possible. Full spectrum. I don't know. I think you can get a little too twitchy sometimes. Sometimes just allowing, for example, the phenomena to provide its own light is actually, it's a safer bet than trying to light up the phenomena.
Yeah.
Like why leave fish to catch fish? You're already there. That if it wants to light up, it will. Let it light up. Use the darkness as your template, rather than bringing this artificial light in that you don't even need.
Well, that's kind of why I went away from using flash camera. You see a shadow in the corner, you're going to drown it with this bright, quick light. You really think you're going to get anything with that? And so I stopped using flash a long time ago.
Because it's an orb maker, too.
Well, that too, yeah. You get this dust storm and...
Yeah, and you can't...
look at all the orbs.
You can't talk that out of a person. It's it's useless. So, yeah. So it's an orb maker. It builds erroneous data. It's, yes... If you're using flash as some type of an effect to light up a quarter when you're going to be looking in the shadowy area and you would just need a little ambient light drifting over, but to look into the flash, it's like, come on.
Yeah, no, I'll send a flashlight down the hallway or whatever, and then snap that, but I'm not going to use the flash off the camera.
No.
Yeah.
That's just something that, you start off and you think, well, I'm going to run around in Gettysburg with 1,000 other people who were told that these orbs are ghosts, and let's take all these pictures of gnats and bugs and mosquitoes and take it home and say that it's grandma's ghost. But
the principle is the same in the water?
Same in the water. Oh, worse.
Worse.
Okay. Flash underwater is hideous. So, that brings us back to what got me started in this. I saw an illuminated sphere. And it fascinated me. Because I can tell you this, I've been dealing with the paranormal since before a lot of people were born, and I'm older than I'm probably older than I look, or maybe I look as old as I am, which is scary too. But
you look good, Lee.
Yeah, not bad for 80, But
he's not 80.
Because I've seen glowing balls of light in the forest. I've seen glowing balls of light underwater. I've seen glowing balls of light in homes. Real, actual glowing balls of light with my own eyes.
Yep.
So, since there's enough glowing balls out there on their own, I'm not looking to light one up. And I like working it that way. I don't like to have any erroneous or unusable data from any flash. I mean, we mostly use our lights to get us to an area, of course, like any wreck penetration diver would do. You can't not have a backup to your backup to your backup. I've got so many lights, it's ridiculous. But most of them are off.
Yeah.
And what I end up doing is, when you're a diver, especially when you've got a diver of any measure of experience, what you have you've got 10 different lights. They're all backups. I hate to even use one. So I'll use the dinkiest, cheesiest, cheapest any light I can get. Like I'll have 4 or 500 lights hanging off, $500 lights hanging off
right.
me that never get used. And then I've got a $20 one that I got at Divers Direct, and I use it for everything. Okay, or I'll use a loom stick. I'll basically just hold a loom stick in front of me. It lights everything up. So, yeah, it's kind of interesting. It's like the more you do it, the less you use.
Yeah.
And it's
interesting.
But we as a team, remember, our lights, we have to be tagged with lights for identification.
Sure.
It's Alpha team, Bravo, those kind of things, and each team has a different color. We also, when we penetrate these wrecks, prior to the penetration dive for investigative purposes, we seed these hallways with different colors so that the divers know where to head. Saves a lot. We do all the recon the day before. So if we're going in a ship and let's say we're going to place a parabolic sonar up into an air pocket where people breathed their last breaths and uttered their last words, if we're going to do that, then we're going to light that corridor and all of the turns and stairwells going in and out and holes in the bulkhead so that Alpha team knows to follow the blue lights. And Bravo
right.
team knows to follow the red lights and so on. And so a lot of the ambient light down there is created by these loom sticks, but just enough to sweeten it up a little bit.
Okay, just to give them a little light to use?
Yeah, just something to know, to realize. And also, too, to make sure that gigantic big black thing that's blotting out everything you can see isn't a 500-pound Goliath grouper.
Yeah.
Because they'll come at you, too, right?
Right.
Because that's the top
Yeah, you have some other dangers down there like that.
He's the top chain predator. I mean, there's nothing more deadly down there than a Goliath grouper. I mean, that's it. Okay,
you're done, huh?
It's a 500-pound largemouth bass, and you're a crankbait. Okay, and that's basically how that works. So, yeah, they don't care what you do or say. They're just coming down the hall, and you better move. Wow. And it's kind of interesting to see.
Yeah, you don't usually have that when you're investigating a building.
No, and that's what gets me with people is, we are experts at what we do, and I love it when people say there's no experts in the paranormal field. Well, that's bullshit, okay? Because we are experts. Because if we weren't experts, we'd be dead, okay? And I'm proud to say that the team is sharp enough to save someone's life.
Yeah.
We're rescue divers. We're wreck penetration divers. We're mixed gas divers. We've been saving people since we started in rescue class. None of us are strangers to actual physical rescues. So you've got professionals holding your life in their hands. That's what the team's about. And it's serious. If you're not serious,
right.
Somebody's going to die.
Well, yeah, especially down there, in the sea.
Yeah.
You're in a wreck. You never know what might fall on you down there.
Oh, you can have a bulkhead collapse.
Yeah.
You got to make that call. Should I swim under it or over it? Should I, how long has it been like that? We'll find a wall collapsed on a ship that wasn't collapsed previously.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, oh, brother. Some ships, people don't realize, are made out of plywood. Like,
yeah.
Some of these big ships, they've got a steel hull but plywood walls.
Right.
And they buckle when they get wet. And they start to sag and buckle underwater, and there you go. So, yeah, you got to worry about that. You got to worry about everything from your gas load being improper to exceeding your maximum depth. So, at any rate, you got to keep yourself alive while you're looking for ghosts. And it's fun because it's calculated.
Mm-hmm.
A, B, C, D, and you got to mark everything off properly, because if you don't, it's not going to be right. And in all of that, you have to try to capture some data within a 3 to 5 minute window, because you're not down there all day. You go down 150, 260, 200 feet deep. You've got 3.5 minutes of bottom time.
Yeah, you're not down there all that long.
3.5 minutes of bottom time. What are you going to do?
Right.
Where are you going to go? What are you going to do? What are you going to see?
You're not sitting there like in some of these buildings that we investigate. You might be sitting in a room for an hour doing an EVP session.
Yeah,
you're not doing that when you're diving.
You have minutes, okay, and then you got to run your reciprocal to get the heck out. So we leave stuff behind. We leave recorders, and we leave different types of drones and different things down there, so that it will pretty much absorb the data, as well as we have a winged sonar that actually floats and it flies over at station over a wreck, and it listens down with this little parabolic cone. It's neat.
Okay.
So, we listen to pockets of air for voices. We reanimate those pockets of air with electricity so that they come alive again. We will, to the best of our ability, electrify the hull as well, even more than the hull is naturally electrified. Okay. So all these things, come into play, and it's interesting.
What are you doing when you electrify the hull?
Well, what you're doing is when you electrify the hull, you reanimate, whatever voice was in there, you give it the power to speak again. Like if it's an echo, you charge the echo. There has to be power. There has to be some power source going on in the metal and in the work, so to speak, to make things manifest. And it just kind of helps it along, because you're not going to get for example, you've got a digital recorder. Unless there's batteries in it, it's not going to speak.
Right.
Okay, so you've got to get some battery into the ghost to get it to speak too. You got to give it a little bit more than it had, because over the time it's getting washed away and it's decaying and it's not as powerful as it used to be. So, it doesn't hurt to zap it a little bit.
So this is a question from Tom McNicholas. Sounds echo underwater. How can you tell a real EVP?
Oh, your EVP, don't even go there with EVPs. You're not going to hear a thing.
No.
That's not how that works. Nothing, Tom, nothing terrestrial applies. It's a completely different world. You're right. Sounds will echo from 15 miles away.
Yeah. For
example, I was recently somewhere where people were telling me about voices that they hear from afar. And that's phenomenal. But they have no idea how afar those voices have come from. They didn't come from 300 yards away. They came from 3 miles away. Just like you have SSB type, radio or ham or any of those things, and you bounce it along the atmosphere from the ground, from the ground to the cloud layer, and up and down and up and down and up and down, and you'll travel halfway around the world. Sound moves the same way. So, some guy will be fishing and drop a sinker in the boat 6 miles from here, and we'll hear him.
Yeah.
So you can't go by that. Forget about it. All bets are off. Now.
So what kind of strategies are you using down there?
Well, what happens is there's a difference between that type of EVP and when you take one of our sonars and place it up inside a ship into that thin little bubble zone between the water and the top of the bulkhead, where when the ship went down, people were pressing their mouths in there and speaking.
Okay, so it's up in the air bubble, out of the water.
In the air bubble, out of the water. And when you stick it up inside there, it samples the air, not the water.
Gotcha.
So we're looking for ghosts underwater, in the air underwater. Okay, that's how that works. But no, you can't. You can tell. I'll tell you what also, too. People don't realize how much they talk when they dive. Now, we dive full face, so it's all comm system. So when we dive, you can tell, and it's an overlord, the man with the mic up in the mothership, can hear everything everyone says. People don't realize how much they talk in their standard regulator. Like, you'll be diving along, and I've brought recorders down there encased in these cases. People are diving and along, they're like, bloop, 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 and then they go, ooh, a barracuda.
Nice.
Ooh, I'm freezing cold. Bloop, bloop, bloop. You hear this, and they're talking and talking. I'm like, shut up. I'll actually take my regulator out of my mouth. Like if I'm doing a regular dive, I'm like, shut up. They won't stop there because, we on land, even investigators in haunted places, we mumble to ourselves.
We do. And so you have to try to tag that. And so it drives us nuts when we're investigating with somebody that's chatty. Yeah. It's like Shauna and I, and we won't mention any names, but there's times where it's like, we love that person, but we can't investigate with them. Because
he just won't shut up, right? And there's divers who won't shut up.
Yeah.
Like this. And that's why a lot of our divers aren't given a full face mask. They get an earpiece.
Oh, okay.
So they can only hear. Because some of you just don't want them talking. They just won't shut up.
Yeah.
So it's on a need-to-know basis. The worker bees plant the things and don't say anything, and the people have got something to say and need to say it. But no cross-chatter.
Okay.
We don't allow that. So,
I have a couple questions down here. Sean Oldsmith, do you see shadows under the water?
Yeah, you do, Sean. You do see shadows. You see some odd things. It's hard to describe. You see shadows, light bars, thick light bars, things out of the corner of your eye that are strange. More light than shadow.
Okay.
More light than shadow. But you see shadow. You definitely see shadow. You'll see things move fast too. I mean, super fast. Like they'll zip across the bulkhead like they shouldn't have.
And it's not some marine life or anything like that?
No. It's way different. There's some slinging around in those boats that people don't see. You go deep down in the boat. There's oily stuff slinking along the walls. There's weird things down there. Living bubbles. Things that don't make any sense. Stuff that just...
What's a living bubble?
It's like a bubble it's a shaped bubble that looks like it's alive, but it isn't. Or it is. Is it? I don't know. A bubble isn't supposed to swim horizontally.
Okay, yeah, they usually rise.
It's supposed to rise vertically. It's like, that bubble that you just passed? Well, it just went out the door to the left. Bubbles don't do that. And so there's all this cool stuff down there. Like, my favorite, actually, of all these things are these little embers. They're about, they're about the size of an ember from a campfire.
Okay.
And we find them in ships. They glow like fire, and they dance around like fireflies.
Interesting.
And they've never been identified as a creature. But they're down there. They're like living fire. They're living flaming embers. They're as red as fire. And they
no idea what they are.
No, but they know you're down there. They flitter around. They flitter all around, and you just kind of go swimming. You swim along, and a bunch of them come up, and you swim through them, and they disappear. And what the hell?
And they don't harm you or anything.
No, nothing. I'll tell you something. Nothing down there is going to harm you. It could if you're an idiot, but there isn't something down there that's looking to get you.
You don't want to mess with the great white.
Right, yeah. But even then, there isn't stuff down there that's looking to eat you. I mean, yeah, there's sea monsters and stuff in the deep. I'm not talking about a monster, but I mean, of all of these normal things, it's kind of why I like night diving the most. In fact, to me, night diving is diving. Daytime diving is like preliminary.
Interesting.
Okay, why? Because everything's out. All the stuff that hides during the day comes out. And it's this big, happy community. I mean, yeah, things eat other things. That happens. However, they come out and they look at you. The little things, little crustaceans come out and they look at you like this, and fish swim up to you and look at you. And everything's kind of like, hey.
Yeah. Well, and that happens on land, too, where there's a lot of creatures that are nocturnal that you just don't see during the day because they want the night. They want the darkness for cover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they come out and they say hi, and they're naive. They're like a little kitten. They come right up to you.
I'm like, oh, what are you?
What are you? Hi. And I'm like, hi, and they look at you, and then they go swimming off, and it's very cool. You have these interactions with these creatures, and they're like, I'm like, wow, he came up and said hi, and off they went. And so and I dig that. I mean, it's kind of cool.
Cool.
you know, because nobody's eating anybody and nobody's screwing up anybody's life, and everything's kind of super mellow and quiet.
Yeah, I bet it's real quiet down there.
Quiet and peaceful and serene, and your whole life, or rather your whole scope of interest, is in that circle of flashlight. Nothing else matters.
Yeah.
It's just
Well, that's all you can see, right?
Yeah, little circle. And you're just in that circle, and that's all I have to worry about. Unless some gigantic black thing goes across it, you know, I'm perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Now, there are times you'll turn and see some gigantic black things going next to you, and that's enough to send your, you know, to put a chill up your spine. Like, holy crap.
Yeah.
There's also things out there that target you with some type of it feels like a lock-on radar. Like, I'll tell you guys, we were in Cozumel, and it was one of those resorts. It was at Blue Angel, and it was about, I think, 18 of us went. The team's really big, and we were there for a week. And it's one of those things where you get, like, you're there for 7 days, you get 5 boat dives plus as many unlimited beach dives as you want. So naturally, we're lobster diving off the beach right there at the resort, where it's not very deep. It's maybe 10 feet deep, you know, 500 yards out, right?
Yeah.
So it's pitch black. It's the summertime. We've all got loom sticks and maybe one light in the hand because we're, you know, you don't need more than one. And I'm out there. We're looking for lobsters, and I'm maybe a football field off the shore, about that far. But
Okay.
I'm only in 5-6 feet of water.
Yeah.
There's octopus everywhere. I'm looking at them by myself in the middle of the night. Of course, there's other divers too, but we solo dive. We don't pair dive. The instructors, like, I mean, we don't pair dive usually. I'm off doing this guy's doing that. We're autonomous. And what happens is that occasionally you'll see the glow stick of another diver from maybe 50 feet away when he's poking around too. But it's every man for himself. Well, I'm out there, and I've got my back to the Caribbean and my front to the mainland. And something locked onto me. Like on Top Gun, where that little triangle and square meet and you get missile lock.
Right.
Something got missile lock on me.
Interesting.
And I was like, beep, 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 beep. And I'm like, missile lock. And I'm like, oh, shit.
Did you actually hear the beat?
No, but it's in my... It's
in your head?
It's in my
or
head.
something? Okay.
So I swim off to the left by some reef, and the lock goes off. So I'm like, you know, whatever. You know, I'm down there, right? And then, you know, because I'm armed, you know, but I'm not, but it's whatever. Okay,
Yeah.
so then next thing you know, beep, 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 locked again. Oh, great. Now I'm going left. Okay, so now it's hurting me. Okay, it's moving and hurting me. So then I'm like, then I got this lock, like lock and load, like it's gonna fire. And my brain goes, abort. You know, so I swam. I had one of those swims where I almost drained my tank in about 30 seconds. It was that kind of thing. And I got out of the water, and everyone's standing there. They're all standing there. And just the operative word was, what the hell? Like, what was that?
Yeah.
And everybody was like, ooh. Like something.
They all felt it.
Everybody felt it. Okay? It was top predator. It was like big boy on the beach, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it was out there, and it was targeting us.
Interesting.
And everybody felt it. So,
Well, that kind of answers one of our questions here that we had from Zippy, who was asking if you experienced anything that made you stop a dive. So you didn't necessarily stop a dive, but you got out of there.
oh yeah, but I mean, we've stopped dives. Well, remember too. Oh yeah, I mean, tell you, we got attacked in a cavern by this. Well, a man died in a cave, actually in the Florida aquifer in Central Florida, in a cavern. So we went in there to find out why he died. And the story and why he died were incongruous with one another, because he was supposed to have been crushed in a cave-in that never occurred.
Oh.
The cavern was absolutely unmolested. I mean, completely undisrupted. There was nothing out of place in that cavern where he was supposed to have died, and his body wasn't under any rocks. So hello, what? Okay,
Yeah.
So anyhow, 160 feet down this dragon's throat. It's basically like a wormhole of rock, and we're down deep, deep, deep. And right about the spot where his body was found, and I was over much deeper water that was much deeper than my calculated maximum depth that my gas load supported. So I could only dive to a certain depth before I would become oxygen toxic and seize and die. It had been predetermined. Well, something grabbed a hold of my back and started pulling me down. Something piggybacked onto me. Like somebody grabbed a hold of me and I started falling down to the depths. And the only thing that kept me from basically going O2 toxic was that I superinflated and smashed my back against the ceiling with this thing on me that finally let go. So I took some pictures with my strobe and this and that, and long story short, we captured the photo of a diver's mask looking up at me from the depth. There was nobody down there.
Oh wow!
I've got it on the website. So we came up. Nobody knew what to think. This, that, and the other thing. You could hear like a bubbling and a screaming and all these crazy sounds when we were down there. Long story short, friend of mine, a very, very well-known diver in the community, went down there on a paranormal dive as part of the team. Months later, we have a video and audio of the same thing grabbing him on the back, pulling his gear off. You can hear the Velcro ripping. You can hear everything tearing. You can hear him yelling inside his face mask for help. And then there's a strobe of red that appears out of nowhere, and there's a diver. Like, diver! And it disappears.
Wow.
We got it on film. So, yeah, I mean, sometimes you get grabbed, sometimes you get harassed. And, sometimes you see a giant shark, and diving with sharks didn't become safe. It's like, for example, every TV show you see, everyone's diving with sharks. Everyone's rubbing their belly. Everyone's feeding them.
Yeah, these days.
Diving with sharks is still not safe. There's more people being eaten by sharks than there's people petting sharks. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And, and of course you have to realize those are nurse sharks that they're petting, and they're not going to bite you anyhow, because nurse sharks don't bite.
Right.
Of course, unless you put your arm down their throat.
Well, yeah, at some point something will bite you.
Yeah, but a 20-foot hammerhead will bite you, and a tiger will bite you, and a great white will eat you, and those kind of things. So yeah, it's still not safe to dive with sharks. Definitely.
Yeah. So a couple of interesting questions here. One from Bree Jones. This is an interesting one. Can spirits affect oxygen as much as they affect batteries?
No.
No, they don't do that?
Your gas is your gas. I mean, when you're talking volumetric volume. They don't. No, they don't.
Because for batteries, I mean, they're looking for. Well, I have a lot of theories about the whole battery thing, anyways. Because I don't think they actually know that they're doing it, but they're getting the electricity out of that. Where with oxygen, it's not electricity.
No, oxygen is different. Your gas load is pretty much your gas load. It's a standard. And that's nice, it's an absolute standard. You've got 1200 psi, you have 1200 psi. It's encapsulated in the tank, and there's no physical way, because remember, it's all physics, even though it's paranormal.
Yeah. There's
no physical way for that oxygen to escape, or for your air to escape. Also, too, they don't change your oxygen mix. For example, like when we're nitrox divers, so rather than breathing 78% nitrogen, 1% argon, and 21% oxygen like all people do, ambient air, we breathe completely different loads. We'll drive 36% oxygen, 32%, 40%, 50% oxygen.
Well, yeah, and that's another thing is you have all these different gas levels.
All these different, all these different gas levels. So yes, I mean, when I'm breathing oxygen and a nitrogen that's completely calculated and mixed in my tank, those ratios don't change. If those ratios change, even in my mouth, they don't change. Even when it's out of the tank and in the free space of my regulator before I breathe in, nothing alters that.
Okay.
If it did, I'd be dead. Yeah,
there you go.
Definitely.
All right. That was okay. Have you ever seen this from Spooky from Dawn? Have you ever seen anything alien in nature? I know you have, because and I haven't put it up here yet, and I'll have to show the pic. But you have Master of the Abyss, your book, which you published through Haunted Road Media, and so that definitely has some things alien in nature.
Oh yeah. Oh no, I've seen.
So
no, actually, my best-selling book through Haunted Media. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, let me get that pic of that up. Go ahead and talk about it, and let me get the pic.
And it's Master of the Abyss, A Journey into the Unknown. And it's filled with cryptids and all these crazy things that people see. The things that I've seen. Except, I like to believe that there is a real-world twist to my stories. Because a lot of things that people see aren't what people see isn't what they think they're seeing. People are very poor historians. People are very poor at recounting, some type of an occurrence. And
that's really big.
a lot of people don't know. A lot of people don't know what they're looking at. They wouldn't know a bear if it hit them on the head. They wouldn't know the difference between a standing black bear or brown bear and Bigfoot. And so there's a lot of misconception and miscategorizing going on. However, I've seen amazing things. One of the stories in my book is called The Devilfish. It's about a 30-foot wide manta ray covered in bioluminescent diatoms that used to swim around right there in Avalon Bay off Catalina Island in the early 70s. And I was fortunate enough to be there with my father back in those days. He worked on the island. And so I actually went out in a small skiff with my friend and we tried to catch it. And, the story is about what happens when we hook the big one. And, I've seen sea monsters. I've seen them big ones and small ones, things on land. Alien type things that make you wonder if you get your head screwed on straight.
Yep.
But you always have to look at these things through a sober eye, because you look at it 1 second and what somebody else sees is different, and it's your interpretive abilities that are going to put it in the right category. Because there's enough people who will see, a coyote standing on his back legs leaning against the tree, and they think it's the dog man. They think it's the chupacabra.
Right, it's a chupacabra. Right.
It's a chupacabra. It isn't. And it's interesting, but you have to be selective in what you see, definitely.
So we have a $5 Canadian super chat from Snaggletooth75. Patrick, thank you very much. Says hi, Mike and Lee. So thank you very much, Patrick. Appreciate that. So this is also from Bree Jones. Have you ever done dives on downed bombers from World War II?
I've done dives. We know of. There's two that we're trying to raise right now in a lake that I can't tell you about. But that's all. I've dove shells of wrecks that are on the bottom, but none in, like, say, Truk Lagoon or places like that nature. No, have not been there. Guadalcanal.
Never found the missing airplanes from the Bermuda Triangle or anything like that?
I've looked.
Have you?
And I'm still looking because I live down there. But to me, Guadalcanal, Solomon Islands, those are the wrecks. That's it. That is it. That whole area is where I want to go. And yes, when I get an opportunity to go there, then I'll definitely dive bombers and whatnot.
Okay, cool.
Because it's cool to me.
Yeah, definitely cool. From Cassandra, have you ever seen any ET or UFO activity underwater?
Oh, yeah. But, they definitely. Now, I can tell you this. The USOs, the USOs that people see.
Unidentified submerged
object.
Yeah.
They're luminous manta rays. I've seen one. The devilfish was an example. It was a USO. It looked just like a flying saucer. Imagine this. A glowing slab of meat 30 feet wide, swimming faster than your boat can move. Swimming fast enough to propel that creature out of the water if it wanted to. Because, you see mantas come out, they'll flap their wings 4 or 5 times before they land. Imagine the speed necessary to launch a 30-foot manta out of the water. Okay? They see these things off Andros Island all the time. They're huge manta rays. And what happens is they cover with diatoms, and the whole body will glow like the moon. And they glow bright white underwater, and they fly past you because they're curious, and they fly past twice the speed of the boat, and then what do it looks like a flying saucer.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yes, I've seen them. USOs are manta rays, and they'll even tell you that. The guys that work off Andros will tell you that.
They probably see them all the time, huh?
Well, a lot of the guys do. They run a lot of spec ops off of Andros.
Okay.
And a lot of SEAL activity, and a lot of training. The Buds guys, and they'll tell you they see them.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, we have a $10 super chat from Tom McNicholas from one bubble sucker to another.
Hey, Tom.
Thank you very much, Tom. Really do appreciate that. One of our Deep Down the Rabbit Hole Patreon patrons.
Thanks, buddy.
So, Sean Oldsmith is wondering where's the best dive around the world.
You know what I find? Of all the places, Penny Camp at Key Largo.
Key Largo, huh?
Penny Camp Preserve at Key Largo is thousands of square miles. You think, what? How's that possible? I don't even know. It's they say that it's thousands of square miles, or wait a minute, is it 1,000 square miles? I think it's like in the low thousands or something.
Okay.
It's insanely big. It's like half the Caribbean.
Wow.
In square miles, and you think, how can that be? It's massive. It's massive, and it's pristine. As pristine as the Barrier Reef.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing can be taken. You can't take any shellfish. You can't take anything.
Right,
You can't
you're not allowed
take
to
shells.
touch it. Right.
It's a pure, pristine underwater environment.
Wow.
And it's just amazing. It stretches out, halfway in through the Caribbean Sea and all these different places, and you can't touch anything. So here we got an opportunity. Go take a look.
All right.
I
know you've been trying to get me out for a while.
Yeah.
One of these days.
It's pretty neat. I mean, there's shipwrecks galore. The numbers. You hear these numbers. There's hundreds of shipwrecks. There's all these different things. But you go along the bottom. There's a ship's wheel. There's a winch. There's an anchor. There's a this.
I think when people think of shipwrecks, they're thinking of like the big Spanish galleons and all that. And yeah, sure, there's some of those scattered about, but there's all kinds of different shipwrecks out there, right?
Right. Well, remember, what you have to understand is, what people need to understand is, you aren't going to find, your typical Goonies shipwreck.
Yeah.
They don't exist. There are no whole galleons in saltwater. They're gone. What you find is a row of rocks on the bottom of the sea that don't belong there. And that row of rocks might be 20 feet long, and they're boulders, perhaps the size of a man if you were curled up, like about wadded up size of a man. And these rocks served as ballast in the bilges of pirate ships back in the day. And what happens is that when the boats come down like this and they land on the bottom, they would separate. The ballast hit, and then they separate, and you have stringers of the ship, the wood, the ribbing and the strakes that lay down on the sand. They get covered by tidal flow and whatnot, and these rocks are in the center. So what you have to do is you have to find the rocks that don't belong there, and then you go down to them and you dig around next to them, and you find the stringers and all the goodies down inside.
Gotcha.
But the Goonies pirate ships are gone. Now there are Goonies ships in the Great Lakes.
Interesting.
Fully intact Goonies ships.
Is that because of the fresh water?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but they're not in salt. There's none. You like the wreck of the Etosha is just scattered rocks on the and wood on the bottom. I mean, wrecks of any of these galleons, you just don't find them anymore. And we look.
Okay.
So they don't exist. But
I gotta throw a question out there, because I know you've gone to a lot of different locations. You're talking about seeing ETs, USOs down there. We've talked about ghost paranormal activity. Any word on Atlantis? Gotta throw that out there.
Oh yeah, well, it's a Bimini Road. I mean, just go to the Bimini Road, and it's the Atlantis makes total sense. Also, too, they're finding things off Micronesia and all of these different places. They're finding underwater structures, and scientists are...
Yeah, it's not just Atlantis. There's places all over the world that had once been on land that are now in the sea, and they're finding pyramids and things like that.
Pyramids, yeah. There's subjugated land masses and things. It's plate tectonics. But you've got the Bimini Road near Bimini in the island chain right off the Caribbean. The Bimini Road is evidence of a road, or rather who knows what it was, whether it was a road or some type of a structure that stretches for miles, and it's underwater, and it looks like a road. I mean it's actually comprised of flat rocks, but you can see it has edges, and it goes, and it's man-made.
Yeah.
And it stretches for quite a distance. And it's theorized that the Bimini Road has something to do with Atlantis, and I imagine it may have.
Well, it may not necessarily be Atlantis, but certainly something man-made.
Something man-made, yeah. And, but of course you have to realize that the world isn't shaped like it was years ago.
Right, and I think that's something people do forget is, they look at the way it is now, and they try to make sense of it in that context, and that's not the way it was, 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 years ago. And now they're saying, they found evidence of, civilization 11,000 years ago. And that you
Right.
say, well, it's only 5,000. Well, now they're looking at 11,000. And it's like the world was very different. I mean, 11,000
Yeah.
years ago, you still had, you're coming out of an ice age and things like that. So very, very different environment.
Mm-hmm. Well, things are, and also too, the dating is skewed. And here's a good example. The first megalodon tooth that was found, you see all these big meg teeth, and we find them too. These, from the giant great whites that were 100 feet long years ago. The first meg tooth that was ever found was found in a dredge net that was sent down by Captain Cook when he did his first expedition to the South Pole, or to Antarctica.
Yeah, Antarctica. Yep.
Antarctica. And what happened
He was trying to get to the South Pole.
Yeah, trying to get to the South Pole. But he didn't, it was like that barber pole thing, but he never found it. So what happened was he dredged up, they dredged up this tooth, and it came up, and they took it and they put it, I think they had it at Cambridge at some museum or something like that, and they had it there for years and years until they were finally able to carbon date it. So they carbon dated this tooth for the first time ever, and they carbon dated.
It's all bubbly now.
It's just the bubbliest tooth. Like they stuck it in Coca-Cola, and they carbon dated it to, I believe, they said something that was like 5 or 10 million years. That's what they said.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, it's from like the, not the Cretaceous, but it's from like the Jurassic period or one of those periods like that. And they said basically that these megalodons haven't existed for millions of years.
Yeah.
Well, a couple of years ago, the very tooth, which is at another, I think it's in Edinburgh or somewhere, they took this tooth and they dated it using depleted potassium.
Interesting. Okay.
It's 4,800 years old. That
4,800.
That tooth came out of that shark's mouth 4,800 years ago. Now, does that suggest that that shark was the last of its kind? No. That just suggests that a megalodon lost a tooth 4,800 years ago.
Right.
So, that means that when the Vikings were plying the seas, and that means that when the Chinese were all over the place, and God knows who else was out there, they were out there in the seas with these 100-foot-long great white sharks.
Yeah.
100 feet long.
Yeah, so when they're writing about sea monsters, they're probably describing the real thing.
Right, which also makes you wonder whether they're still out there.
Yeah.
Because
there's deep parts of the ocean that we just don't know a thing about.
You don't know about. And so, it's very interesting how things are dated. And I know there's people, then they start getting into things like creationism versus this.
Well,
we're not talking about that.
We're not doing that.
We're just talking
we
about...
did that a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, we're just talking about things like, the fossil line and how some things have been misinterpreted and misdated, which sets disorder into the whole works, because you can't tell how long a civilization has been a certain way because it's all misdated.
Yeah, there's a lot of mix-up with the dates, and I think we're starting to discover more and more of that these days.
Yeah, and the people who dated them are now dead, so it's okay to call them out on their bad dating practices.
I do have to recognize a $5 super chat, Canadian super chat from Bree Jones. Thank you very much, Bree. Really do appreciate that. I know you guys have a lot more questions, so we will do our best to get to them all here. This is an interesting question from Betty Lange. Do ley lines cause any problems underwater? No. No effect underwater?
No, I think a lot. I don't know. Does it happen? No.
No. Okay.
No.
From the Haglin. Is Lee familiar with the just discovered underwater lost city off the Yucatan Peninsula?
Yeah. It's all, you've got... The Yucatan is my favorite place to dive. Mm-hmm. Okay, I mean, I like Penny Camp, but I live there, so I'm biased. Okay, but the Yucatan, I mean, you've got all of the Mayan civilization, and you go to Chichen Itza, or my favorite, Xcaret. Now, you talk about sunken pyramids. If you've never been to Xcaret, it's Ixcaret. You actually swim around sunken pyramids. It's amazing.
Interesting.
Oh my God.
That's cool. That's cool.
Okay, give me an example. You go to Xcaret. I went into a cave at Xcaret. We're swimming along, pitch black, except for this beam of cobalt blue light that went into the water. and it was coming through a blowhole in the rocks up above, through
wow.
the cenote. It was sticking in. I swam up to a half-submerged pyramid that was covered with marine iguanas. You know, the like big Mexican greens, but they're swimming.
Yeah.
And these big iguanas are sitting on it. And it was like, they were like vines coming down it. This is Indiana Jones crap.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, my wife was with me. It was amazing. I mean, full on Indiana Jones.
Nice.
It was like, wow. So yeah, Ishkaret is filled with that stuff. And they call it an archaeoecologic park.
Okay.
They've known about these submerged pyramids for years, but it's just kind of going out a little bit farther.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, it's a little harder to access them too. You have to get in the water.
You have to get in the water. Yeah, but there's crap out there like crazy. Yeah. Lots of pyramids in the Yucatan, and yeah, it's neat. It's a lot. You know,
that's absolutely fascinating.
The observatories.
It's a whole other world. That it was above ground at one point.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
and so you kind of have to almost imagine, what it was like back at that time. So that's evidence right there. World has definitely changed.
Oh, it's completely changed, and there's stuff. Maybe it was the Bimini Road way down there. Who knows?
Yeah, don't know.
I don't know, but it's that area is ripe with discovery. With things to be discovered. That's for sure. Okay. And I think it's fascinating.
So Anita Ackerman, do you dive wrecks in the North Sea?
No, I'm a warm water diver.
Okay.
Yeah, I hate the cold.
You hate the cold.
Yeah.
I don't blame you there.
Yeah, I hate the cold. You know what I mean? I've got all the choices in the world. Why should I freeze my ass off? I could go down to where it's warm. It's in the 90s in the water where we live in South Florida. Why in God's name would I go anywhere colder than that? You
get the Viking shipwrecks.
I could do that, but I got I'll worry about the ones off the Yucatan for now because I can get a margarita afterward.
Oh, there you go.
You know what I mean? You get hand rolled tortillas.
You get the little umbrella in there too, right?
You do, and I get authentic tacos and all that kind of stuff, and you just can't get that.
Yeah, that's great.
That's probably why.
From Dawn Spooky, what is the oldest wreck you've investigated?
Oh, geez. Probably some of the rock piles in the Gulf. You can't date them, but pretty old.
Yeah, but some rock pile down there is something.
Yeah, from a long time ago. Yeah. I've military wrecks, of course, but I would say the oldest true military wreck was one we found off Catalina off Anacapa in Santa Rosa. That was uncharted, and it's in my book in Master of the Abyss. It's called the Ghost Ship, and we're not quite sure when that thing came from.
Yeah,
it was big. It was a big ship. Wasn't supposed to be there. It was kind of trapped between two rocks. It was really weird, and it was in World War II. Mm-hmm. It was it could have been a World War I frigate. It was kind of narrow and tall, sub chaser, that kind of thing.
Okay,
but it was interesting. But that's about the oldest ship I've been on.
Cool.
But you can't find it anymore because it used to be on a ledge, and it slipped off into the benthic water.
Wow.
Gone. Yeah.
Yeah, into the depths below.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank God that thing, it still haunts me. I mean, we swam down to it, and I hit the sand, and it looked like a blip on the sonar. We couldn't even tell what it was. It looked like this weird angular formation, and we went down there blind on some stormy day, and I landed, and we knew we were like about maybe 100 feet from the target. We hit the sand. There were three of us. We took a compass reading. I swam out to it. It's pitch black, and it looked like it half the distance to me. It loomed at me. It like it slid forward, and the three of us are like, oh, okay, like this giant bow just went.
Oh wow!
Of this massive monolith, and we were like, what the, And I still contend the damn thing moved.
Yeah.
Which is probably why it's not where it used to be.
Well, if it slipped off into Never Neverland.
Yeah, interesting.
I had the wrong bar up here. That whole time I was still on the rabbit hole bar.
You're just making a mess of it.
Yes, I am. Okay, from Denise Pridemore. She's wondering if you teach diving.
Yeah, I'm an instructor. I'm an Howie instructor. Yeah. I'm one of the old guard. I teach in South Florida. So if you want to learn, give me a holler.
Yeah. Lee's been wanting to teach me for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've taught hundreds of people. I've been teaching a long time, and I've been diving since the mid '70s. So yeah.
From Donna Gorton, one of our Cheshire Cats, what was your absolute most startling piece of evidence to date?
Well, I have photos and videos of anomalies that shouldn't exist. For example, I've got, the very clear photo of a diver's mask staring at us from the abyss that didn't exist. We have video of the thing grabbing a hold of Bruce, trying to pull his gear off his back. That was pretty fascinating. And I'll tell you something, a piece of evidence that meant a lot to me, tied into paranormal, was a door hinge. And you probably think, what? Well,
door hinge.
Door hinge. Long story short, we were diving a lake in Central Florida where the apparition of a woman is seen walking the shore. And all of the stories suggested that there was a home that burned that was on the edge of the lake, and she and her sister perished in it. Yet, for all the tax records that we checked, way back to the days of the first flybys and biplanes, back in the day, none of it showed any type of a structure on the property at all, from way back in the day.
Interesting.
Yeah. It was interesting. I put over 20 divers in the water. We did a forensic search of the entire lake, and we pulled the front door out of it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
We pulled the front door, the burned front door, and most of the remains of the front, along with the large door hinges that came off the house. Yeah, that house existed.
Yeah.
She died in the fire.
Wow.
And that was cool as hell.
So you're able to confirm that whole story.
So that's I mean, it's maybe not a giant flying manta ray, but it's certainly cool.
Yeah, no, it definitely is, because you hear a lot of those stories, and a lot of times it gets chalked up to, okay, folklore, legend, what have you. People still say that they see something, but a lot of people discredit it. And sure, a lot of times they are just folklore and legend, but here you are, boom, you're able to prove something.
Did it? We searched, we found it, we slammed it. It was perfect. And then we went back to the the speakeasy in the mansion on the property, and several of us had an apparition phenomena experience. That was fantastic. So there you go, like surf and turf,
Yeah, surf and turf. Yeah. Nice. Surf and turf paranormal.
That's good stuff, yeah. And we had a lot of margaritas that night too, but that had nothing to do with it. So it was good stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can imagine a lot of things after having a few margaritas, but Thor's pretty solid.
It's pretty solid, and everyone needs to know, I'm not opposed to having a margarita to an investigation. It just sort of sets me right. So, yeah.
Nice.
That's the stuff right there.
From Bree Jones, where there'll be more activity because of the volcanic activity in Hawaii. So, I guess, will that stir up some more activity?
I don't believe so, because the volcanic activity in Hawaii, although new at the spot where it is, has been continual on the island for forever. There's always volcanic activity on the island. So, no, I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, there is activity in Hawaii. Hawaii has a heck of a lot of spirits. I don't know about that, though. I know that it does change. Well, it's not large enough to make any water temperature changes. Of course, there's problems now with toxic gas, CO2.
Well, yeah, when the lava hits the water, it'll give off that gas.
Yeah, and there's problems with that, but I think it's more like a biochemical issue. I don't think there's an energy issue with it.
All right, very cool. Well, we are just about at our hour mark, and I think I got through all of the questions, at least all of them that I could find, and I put into my little document over here. So, well, Lee, I really do want to thank you for hanging out with us tonight.
You're welcome.
It's been awesome. A lot of great stories.
A lot of fun, everybody. And thanks for tuning in, everybody. And if you're, guys, the last hour, we discussed the Paracon coming up here, the Haunted Road Media Paracon in Alton, Illinois, this next weekend. And so, this weekend.
This weekend. In a couple of days.
So we'll all be there. And I'll be signing copies of my bestseller, Master of the Abyss. Come and get one. A lot. If you're interested in what we're talking about, it's chock full of that stuff, and it's fun. Yeah,
check out this book. So it's available at hauntedroadmedia.com. You can pick it up from Amazon. I mean, basically the links from Haunted Road Media will send you right to where you need to go. So yeah, pick up his book. It's fantastic. So available in paperback. It's a big book too. A
It's
lot of stories. Oh, and on Kindle.
I love it. It's a great book. Fun to write, fun to relive. I'm telling you, it's there's some fun stuff in there. You'll take you places you've never been, and you'll like it.
So I guess there is one question in here that we just missed.
I didn't mean.
Where
Yeah,
was it?
let's take a good look.
No.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see where it is because it looks like the copying got cut off. So per Sean G. Is Sean in that? Sean Gilmore. Hey, there he is. Okay, geez, for Great Lakes. Ever dived the Great Lakes?
No, I fished the Great Lakes, but never dove the Great Lakes. Great Lakes has got some great wrecks. Buddies of mine dive the Great Lakes deep, mixed gas diving, and they're actually finding bodies in the ship's holes. So there's
been some big time wrecks in the Great Lakes. I mean, you had songs written about
Edmund Fitzgerald. And,
there you go. Edmund Fitzgerald. Yep.
Yeah, you got it all. I mean, the Great Lakes. It's cold. It's no bacteria.
It's cold. It's cold diving. You wouldn't want to do that anyway.
Want to do that, yeah. There's no UV. There's nothing to degrade anything. They're finding intact masted ships. Mm-hmm. They're finding the most amazing things down there. I think that's basically ROV diving. It's not, it's remote diving. You can go down there, but why when you can buy an ROV for $500 now? They'll take you down there. Yeah. So, and I'd drop a camera on it.
Okay. So you'd at least do that.
I'd drop a camera. Yeah. Oh yeah. But I'm a treasure hunter, so I like the warmth because also too the colder it is, the less time you can spend down there for metabolic reasons, and if you want to maximize your dive,
go to something warm.
Dive warm water. All right. Yeah, that's for sure.
Cool. All right, so let's go ahead and get to the shout outs and everything. So, all right, our Super Chat superstars, Snaggletooth, thank you very much. Patrick, Tom McNicholas, and Bree Jones, thank you all very, very much. So for shoutouts, there is, well, of course, Shauna, our chat shenanigator, and I hope you are starting to feel a little bit better, my love. Donna Gordon, our Cheshire Cat, in the house tonight, also fielding some of those questions. We have a lot of people saying that they love the show with you. So Karen Lynn, River City Paranormal, there you go, awesome show. Cool. Bridget Willis, yes, you're getting your shout out. We will see you on a Saturday. So Andrew Cox, also see you on Saturday. Cassandra 50, thank you very much. April M. Wimagwans, thank you for joining us again tonight. Spooky Dawn, one of our Deep Down the Rabbit Hole Patreon patrons. So, got to give you guys your credit. Deep Down the Rabbit Hole Patreon patrons. We got Tom McNicholas, Grizz, B3 Airspace, Zippy Davis, BD Flint, Pamela Queen, and Dawn Francisco. Thank you guys very, very much for that. Shauna says she's here, feeling like ass, but still alive.
Hi, Shauna.
And I will see you on Thursday night. Sean Oldsmith, still hanging out from Australia. Thank you very much. Robert White, still in the house, too. I have a couple of Aussies that join us. So that's pretty cool. Yep. There's the Haglin. Thank you very much. Serenable from Ireland. From all over the world. You got
all over the dang world, yeah.
There's Bree Jones. Thank you very much, Bree. Katie Palmer, thank you as well. Chipper Terry, thank you very much. We had a lot of people in the house. Jen K, thank you. Becky Rodriguez, thank you for joining us tonight. Samuel Hall, thanks for hanging out both shows. Jojo B, thank you very much. And she's got to be in here. Where is Pungai Fungi? I know she was in here at some point, so I got to throw it out there. And who else do we have? So there's Snaggletooth, there's Patrick, thank you. Of course, there's B3 Airspace. Diane Hilbert, thank you very much. And there's Grizz. All right, Grizz, thank you. Who else do we have in the house? Sean Gilmore, appreciate the question, Sean. Sean's over here in Ohio, too.
Cool.
So, Sean, we still have to hit Gore Orphanage area. We're going there tomorrow, so we gotta arrange it, you and I know we've talked about that.
We'll be up there tomorrow. We'll give you an update.
Yep. Michelle Nugent, thanks for hanging out tonight. Who else do we have? And let me go ahead and scroll back down. You guys want to shout out, throw it down there in the bottom. Darian Vonahim. I hope I said it right. If I screw up your names, I'm really, really sorry. It happens. It's late. It's all that stuff. And if I missed you, of course, I do apologize. There's a lot of people in the chat, and it's sometimes hard to grab everybody. So let me scroll all the way back down. Who else do we have? And I think that's going to be about it. There's Tom, and I already got Tom. There's Karen, Betty and Wayne. Betty, thank you very much for the questions tonight. Really appreciate it. Betty, we will also see you and Wayne on Saturday. So, all right. So that's going to be it.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much. Tim Schoen. All right. There we go. And Anita Ackerman. All right. There we go. So.
You got it.
I try to get everybody. They're great. They hang out here for a couple hours. They're great supporters. They share out all of our stuff. We have people contributing to the channel and the Haunted Road Media. They buy Ghosty. They buy T-shirts. Now you're buying coffee. So you guys are awesome. We really do appreciate it, and we love you. So that's gonna be it. We'll see many of you on Saturday. For those that are unable to make it, we will go as live as much as we can and share those experiences with you. And then we'll be back here next. Who do we have next week? The guys from Ghost Cry are going to be on Edge of the Rabbit Hole next week, so we'll be happy to have them along.
Good stuff.
All right, and there's Carrie Parrish.
Hey, thanks for being here,
throwing down
everybody.
at the last end.
Thanks for letting me babble. Thanks for listening. Had a great time.
All right, well, thanks for coming out. And first in studio guest, really appreciate it.
I like it. Yeah,
it's awesome.
I overcame my shyness too, which is a good thing. So, all right,
he's very shy. All right, everybody, have a great night. Till next time.
See ya.